Morning, Lockpod.
Good morning.
This is the Locomotive reporting live from Lockpod Studio.
Season 5, episode 11.
Yep.
It's 11. It's one louder, John.
This is going to be a crazy show. I've seen the script.
Yeah. We got some heavy stuff to talk about today.
Woo.
I mean, I'm not BSing. This is like going to be sort of a heavy show. We're going to get into some stuff with Joe Rogan that...
Not with Joe Rogan, about Joe Rogan.
No. We're going to talk about the controversy surrounding Joe Rogan.
That'd be our luck. We get him now.
Yeah. But like, I want to like...
No one else wants
Joe Rogan.
I want to caution everybody that there's some heavy topics on that one. There's some heavy language, and it's part of our covering of it is I personally don't see how Joe Rogan makes it out of this scandal that he's embroiled in.
So listen to Lockpod today. We're going to.
This could be
that.
Our first 3-hour show.
There's
a lot
in honor of
script.
Joe. In memoriam.
Okay, we have another segment we're going to cover. This titled "Al Gore as a Hero."
Yes, after we get on to talk about what isn't legitimate political discourse.
So basically, Al Gore as a hero is the title of and then so I know that some people in the studio may see things differently, but that's going to be an interesting topic. And then I was pleasantly surprised to see something the other day, guys.
What?
Wanted to talk to y'all about it.
What?
Like John.
Yeah.
If I invite Amy to be a guest in our studio, I'm going to like bounce it off you first. I just want to say like. Kevin, if I invite Jana into the studio, I'd be like, hey, Kev, I was thinking about bringing Jana on as a guest. I'd like give you a heads up because I'm nice like that, right?
That wouldn't happen, though.
But what I'm saying is if I would do it, I would be courteous enough to reach out to you and say, hey.
Nice of you.
What do you think about this,
Sure.
Kev, right? Right, Jill? Help me out here, Jill.
You're right. It's common courtesy.
Are you saying you didn't know about this?
Well, I found out when you guys posted it. That was nice. Oh, look at that. My boss is going to be in the studio with me, right?
Oh, boy.
She's a person in her own right, a celebrity in her own right.
Agree, but like nonetheless, common courtesy is like...
So you got all dressed up for her in your Notre Dame
I'm
hoodie?
I feel like
You didn't tell him.
I found out when we tweeted Marissa.
Oh, no.
Marissa's in the studio, and I'm like, oh. And she's like upstairs, and I'm downstairs. I'm like, hey, I guess you're a guest on the studio.
on the
and I'm
podcast.
thinking to myself, what am I going to, I can't be my normal crazy locomotive if Marissa's coming in.
Why not?
Because I got to make sure this is a good show now. She's running for judge.
You're
She
no
is.
longer the master of your domain is what you're saying.
I am not the master of my domain. That's a great way to put it, John.
We're going to find
Were
out.
you
'Cause,
ever,
like-
though?
I am when she's not around. Like, if she's right here, like, let's make it. This is
I
gonna
can
be a
say whatever
different-
I want on the podcast. I just had to deal with it later. Now
well,
you have to
like,
deal with it
I'm,
now.
I'm just telling you right now, like, this is going to be
Is it
Tom
gonna be good or
McDermott.
bad?
Tom McDermott on his best behavior. You're going to see
Sure.
the locomotive just like squared away, like
right.
top buttoned. You know what I'm saying?
So like all the steam's not coming out of the locomotive.
No.
You're just like chugging along.
This is the
on your best
different
behavior.
locomotive. This is the loving, kind,
Oh, wow.
considerate
Look out.
locomotive show.
Got
All right, well,
her.
like, get it all out of you right now
I
because
can't.
we've only got like 20 minutes
I
before
can't
she gets here.
because it's on the show. It's
All
on
right. Well,
Marissa's
she's
show.
not here yet.
But what I'm saying is, there's going to be millions of people that download this and listen to it.
Millions?
Yes, and because of Marissa's presence.
We have taken over Joe Rogan. John.
And the dynamic, we are going to take over for Joe Rogan because he's going down after this scandal. And hey, I got a new segment. It's not a new segment, but it's just Mayor Tom's soapbox,
That's definitely not a new segment.
isn't?
It's like you keep changing the title.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like Tom's middle
You're
finger.
right. Tom's apology.
Tom's soapbox.
Tom's soapbox. I mean,
Okay.
it's just the same thing by a different name.
Well, if Marissa wasn't guest today, it would be called Tom's middle finger.
Okay.
But because Marissa's here today,
It's
and
Tom's soapbox?
it's Mayor Tom's soapbox.
all right. What do we have on Mayor Tom's soapbox
Yeah.
today? What's the music for that, John? Mayor Tom's
Do we have a
soapbox.
button for that yet?
Season 6, Joe. We're gonna
Stepping onto
have
a
that thing.
soapbox.
It's gonna be the best sound box you've ever heard.
Don't pressure John. Let's just go with season 8.
6.
8. We're gonna make it to 8 seasons.
Well, that's
guys.
another
Of course,
good point.
of course we
Maybe
are.
not.
I want to talk about Sheriff Oscar Martinez case.
Okay. Saw it in the paper today, actually.
Yeah. So like and this isn't going to take a long time because we have a few topics to hit, but I've been a lawyer for, I'm doing the math real quick, 22 years.
Sure.
Kevin, how long you been a lawyer?
28 years.
In Lake
you
County.
you were underwater.
Right.
I was in school.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've operated your entire legal career in Lake County.
I have. Yes.
Right.
And that's where I've been located. Sure.
You've done a couple, like Oscar's facing like a felony driving citation, like a felony.
Low felony.
Low felony.
What we would call a quote unquote low felony, like it used to be a D, now
right.
it's a 6
Right.
or whatever.
So now it would be akin to drunken driving, like repeat offender kind of thing.
Sure.
Right? Like if you get a drunken driving, you usually don't get a felony on the first one unless you're like completely
injure
wasted.
someone or
completely wasted, injure somebody. However, if you get the second drunk driving, it's always like a low felony,
within 5 years. Yeah.
And then, so like, because we've seen a lot of cases in our time. Okay, I was a public defender for 5 years in Judge Cantrell's court, D09, right? And I would have every time I appeared, I'd usually have 10 clients, 5 to 10 clients, right? And then you would carry those cases to conclusion, right? And a lot of times when you're a public defender, I would say majority of your cases, 50%, probably driving related. It could be a DUI, it could be drugs in the car.
And a lot of times with PD cases, the folks can't postpone because then they have to get their private attorney. So
which is why
their major goal is get me out of this box and get me back on the street.
And I can't afford an attorney, so you're assigned to me. And thankfully for them, I was a good lawyer for them. I swear when I was a PD, I made it my mission to be a kick-ass lawyer for them. I wanted to be a great lawyer. Even though I was not getting paid by them, I wanted to give them the best legal defense I could.
And I think Lake County's actually famous for the fact they have really good public defenders. I mean, you go down there.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yep.
So, well, I know the felony public defenders are amazing.
Yep.
Right? I mean, so anyway, now to give you a general reminder of what our sheriff going through, and I say our sheriff, Northwest Indiana, is Lake County Sheriff Oscar Martinez, who I'm a fan of. I've seen a lot of sheriffs in my time, and quite frankly, I think he's the best. And I want to say that, so I'm biased, okay? And I see the sheriff that I think is excellent in Northwest Indiana, the kind of sheriff that goes out and pulls people over. He doesn't sit in an office and like order people around. He's a leader out in the field doing it, right?
And had a legacy of being a good cop before he was sheriff of like drug interdiction and things like that. So
he's a cop's cop, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's without a doubt.
So I see a situation where the sheriff was in a traffic situation and he was probably, and I'm just, to remind everybody, he was driving down a street through Crown Point when he passed a roadblock or like two officers pulling somebody over, and the sheriff passed in an unmarked car, allegedly. We don't even know if the sheriff was driving, but he was going at a high rate of speed. The Crown Point officers started to follow him, right? And they activated their lights. And they admitted, and this is Crown Point Police report, they said, we were following it. It was an unmarked car. And then whoever was in that car, presumably the sheriff, flashed his lights. Like, hey, I'm a cop, right? I'm on the job.
It's like cop talk or something.
It's like courtesy. And I'm not telling you if it's right or wrong. I don't get the same courtesy as mayor. I get pulled over, I pull over, okay? Just like everybody else, right?
Yes.
But if you're a police officer, especially the sheriff, the top law enforcement officer in the region, he flashes his lights. Code. I'm a cop.
I'm a police officer.
Even though there's an unmarked car, you probably didn't realize that I'm a cop. So in the Crown Point Police report, they report, once we saw the police lights, we realized it was an officer and we broke off pursuit.
Okay.
True?
I haven't seen the report, but
you've read it in the paper. That's
yes,
what I'm going off.
I've only read it in the paper.
Right. And by the way, I know people. So like I've verified this with friends of mine who know whether or not this is true, and this is true.
Yeah, I haven't seen the document. Let's just put it.
Now the question is, I guess this car that was being followed by the Crown Point officers was seen at a bar a couple hours later. Okay. And the assumption is this car was being driven by the Lake County Sheriff, and the Lake County Sheriff didn't pull over for whatever reason.
Why isn't it an assumption though? I mean, if it's licensed and that's the sheriff's car that he drives, I mean, are we saying it's not?
Nobody.
The
I don't believe anybody. Well, I mean, I'm sure that you can pull up like security cameras and stuff like that to verify who got out of that car.
It makes it sound like you're saying like it may not have been the sheriff driving it.
You have to put him behind the wheel, Kevin.
Okay.
This is a criminal trial we're talking about.
Sure.
So like, even though like the chief in Hammond has a car, presumably anybody could be driving that car. Any of the 210 Hammond police officers we have could have used the chief's car.
Yeah, I guess, but
you don't have to put the guy behind the wheel. He was never pulled over.
I didn't know that was his defense. I wasn't driving it, but maybe it is. I don't know.
If I was being charged with a crime, I would be starting from the basic assumption. Put me behind the wheel, guys. You never pulled me over.
Yeah, I mean,
wouldn't you?
I guess. I just assume that cars are assigned to people. Like, the chief's car is the chief's car, the sheriff's car is the sheriff's car.
This gun may be assigned to you. It doesn't mean you killed somebody with it.
Okay, fair enough. Right, they still have to prove it. Sure.
You have to prove
it.
Okay, so not only, so they have to prove that the sheriff was behind the wheel, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, because he's the sheriff, this thing gets real serious because the sheriff and the Lake County Commissioner have a feud. Commissioner Ripe and Sheriff Martinez have like a blood feud. And it's been entertaining over the last 4 years to watch. It's not entertaining. It's sad, actually, to watch these two go at it. And it's been a real sad display of government.
Well, former friends, that's the hard part about it.
Like, not just friends, Kevin.
Yeah, they were
best friends?
I don't know if anybody would say best friends. I didn't know their relationship. I just know they're real close.
Vacation
They were
together.
real close.
Vacation together, wives knew each other, all that stuff,
Sure.
right? Okay, and now they don't like each other. It's a deep hatred, it appears, right?
If you read the paper, it doesn't look like they get along well.
So anyway,
Kevin is acting like such an attorney right now.
Dude, I know.
He's like, well,
Freaking-
technically, Tom,
gonna-
we don't know if they're not friends, but
I'm going to bash my freaking head against the wall. I'll be right back, okay?
yeah.
Okay, so because he's the Lake County Sheriff and the commissioners request the Indiana State Police get involved and investigate unauthorized use of county vehicles, okay? So the state police start an investigation. They come back and they say, we think the sheriff should be charged with traffic offense. Lake County prosecutor recuses from the case because it's the sheriff, brings in this outside prosecutor from Evansville, Stanley Levko.
Yeah, which isn't unusual, right? If the local prosecutor feels like there's a conflict, then they recuse themselves. So
I agree.
yeah,
If I were Lake County prosecutor Bernie Carter, I would have punted on this also.
for sure.
Because he's the sheriff. You can't win. It's a commissioner versus sheriff, right?
Well, not only that, I mean, prosecutor-sheriff relationship, right? I mean, the sheriff's office brings charges to the prosecutor. I mean, they obviously work together.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is Bernie had no choice, right?
I agree. Legally, he didn't have a choice. He should have gotten out of the case.
So he brings in a dude from Evansville.
Yes.
And the dude from Evansville comes in and convenes a grand jury
Yes, he does.
for a traffic offense.
Yes,
Have you ever seen that in your life?
Well, grand juries are generally secret, so no.
But come on. We're in freaking Lake County, Kevin.
What I would say is this. The history of grand juries that I know in Lake County, at least the prosecutor's office, is the prosecutor takes cases of the grand jury that they're not sure about whether they should be prosecuted or not and lets the grand jury decide.
How often do you see this?
I bet they do grand juries a dozen times a year.
Really?
I'm guessing 5 to 10.
Okay, for murder? For corruption? I don't know.
I think for many offenses. I've seen different offenses there.
So anyway, Lake County, the special prosecutor convenes a grand jury. They come back and they decide to charge Oscar Martinez with these driving offenses. It's basically the equivalent of fleeing from law enforcement, felony fleeing.
Right. That is what it is. Yeah,
Right. Which, so now you get into this whole thing. Wait a second. Didn't the Crown Point police say once they saw this car activate its police lights, they stopped pursuing?
That's the interesting point of it, is that's I think going to be the defense, right? Is that enough for fleeing? Or like, for example, like, are they going to argue, or the police going to argue like, oh yeah, we just terminated the chase, therefore, for public safety reasons, so it's fleeing. I don't know what they're going to say, but I mean, that's going to be the interesting point of it, I think. What amounts to the definition of fleeing under the code?
And does it matter that you're the freaking sheriff, the top cop in the entire region? You're trying to pull over the top cop in the entire region. And he flashes his lights. You go, oh, sorry about that. But that guy's fleeing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing is when there's this, police officer professional courtesy thing, is that really fleeing? When you've just like, okay, I've acknowledged that's a police officer. I'm turning off my lights. That's different, I think, than this guy was taken out down the road. I couldn't get around anything. It was crazy. I just decided to stop the chase. I think it's a lot different.
I want to start off by saying this, Kev. I love Oscar. I think he's great. I'm a friend of his, okay? I'm a supporter of his. I'm still supporting him, even though he's facing this ridiculousness. I think it's ridiculous, okay? However, if I were the sheriff in that same exact situation, I would have pulled over. Even if I was, because the allegation is maybe he was under the influence. That's the allegation, right?
He hasn't been charged with that.
Agree, but they can't because they didn't pull him over. But why wouldn't you pull over? Either A, because I'm a cop and this is professional courtesy, I flashed my lights, they stopped pursuit. Either B, there was a reason he didn't pull over. Maybe he was drinking, who knows, right? That's I imagine there's some people
I'm
that
sure
are
there's an
wondering.
argument there that people are trying to make that, he must have been drinking if he didn't pull over.
Right.
But, I could see it where, if this is something that happens with police officers where they flip their lights on and say, hey, I'm a cop, or do something, I don't know, show their badge, whatever it is, and that's just a professional courtesy and that's done. I mean, I could see him arguing, the sheriff arguing, like, I just flipped my lights on, let him know I was a cop, and kept going about my business.
Or if I were in his spot, and this would have resolved the whole situation, put on your lights and pull over and wait for the officer to decide what to do.
Right. I mean, hindsight's 20/20, right? I mean, at the time, he might have been like, I just
Great.
want to get on my way.
Right.
So who knows?
I got pulled over by a Hammond cop in front of City Hall. I didn't give him the finger and keep driving. I pulled
Tom's
over.
middle finger.
But what I'm saying is Oscar should have done that. I know Oscar knows that. Okay. I bet you Oscar 1,000 times a day wishes, I wish I would have just pulled over. I wish I didn't flash my lights and, use this privilege that other cops use, on a daily basis. But like the fact is,
The facts are the facts.
so now I'm going back to my experience as public defender. I'm trying to estimate how many types of cases like this I did. I'm going to guess
Probably 100.
couple
right?
hundred,
Couple-
100.
Sure.
Okay. And let me tell you something, Kev. I never once went to trial on these cases.
Well,
Never.
which isn't unusual, right, for PD case.
Right. But keep in mind, usually when I had PDs, I had guys that had multiple, previous felonies, previous charges, perennially drunk, perennially having driving offenses. They're in the system all the time.
Yep.
I would have clients like this.
Very common for PD cases.
And then
to
I
do
would
that.
be like, hey, my guy's got a felony. He's going through this class. He's giving up drinking. They'd be like, okay, no problem. Here's a reckless driving. It's a
public
misdemeanor.
intoxication, reckless
Right?
driving.
Reckless
whatever.
driving. Or maybe even an infraction if it was low enough, right? They would never be like, sorry, Mayor, we're taking this dude to trial. We're going to persecute this guy. The special prosecutor is going to come in and convene a grand jury.
Prosecute.
I've never seen anything like this. Okay? This is in Northwest Indiana when you have a person with a clean record. The sheriff, I presume, has a clean record, never had criminal offenses, never been in a situation like this before, a first-time offender. Let's assume the worst. Let's assume he fled. If you gave me that case as a public defender and it wasn't Oscar Martinez, the Lake County Sheriff, I would have pled that thing out 2 months ago.
Yeah, probably like to a reckless or a speeding or something.
And Oscar my client would have to go through like some driving program.
Sure.
Probably maybe even have to take alcohol classes. And then for 6 months, they would be like clean. And then everything would be forgiven. That's how it works.
I mean, you might have a conviction in your record if it was egregious enough, but
If it was egregious
yeah,
enough.
you'd maybe plead down to, right, if this is charged as a felony, maybe it pleads down to a reckless or a speeding or
Kevin.
something like that with probation.
Okay.
Classes.
I have a client, Kevin, that wants to come to Smith-Sursick. Okay?
Okay.
This guy's a first-time offender.
Yep.
Okay? This guy's never been charged with anything before. This guy didn't get pulled over, but he got charged with resisting, but he's totally clean, right? Are you saying, man, we're probably going to trial on this? You're looking at a felony. Are you saying that to him?
No, I'm probably saying, okay, let's get the discovery in. Let's see what the facts are. Let's see if they match up with what you told me. And I'm going to go in and meet with the prosecutor and try to work out a plea agreement, see what the state's offering, and I'll bring it back to you. We'll discuss it and see what you want to do. But but I'm confident that I would get an offer
Right.
from the state.
Well, let me tell you something. I know facts about this case. The special prosecutor hasn't offered anything to the defense in this case.
I don't know.
I know this.
Okay.
I'm telling you.
The question is, I guess I just assumed Oscar wanted to take it to trial and just wanted to go to trial. Now, if he doesn't and he wants a plea, then that's unusual.
If you were the sheriff facing the end of your career over a bullshit traffic incident, and you're facing the end of your career and you've never been charged with a crime and you've never done anything like this before. In fact, if anything, you've been an exemplary public servant your entire career. And there's a dispute about whether or not you should have pulled over, whether or not you should have flashed your light. Sorry, sucker. It's the end of your career. And by the way, have you ever seen a special prosecutor come to another county and do press conferences and go on radio shows and things like that? Because our special prosecutor is like trying to be famous. He went on WJOB, did this long interview about, he's like on a publicity tour. Like this guy, he wants a notch in his bedpost for this thing. Like this isn't how it normally works. If Oscar Martinez was not the Lake County Sheriff, this thing would have been pled out 2 or 3 months ago, and Oscar would be going on with his life. But maybe Stanley Levko wants to be famous. Maybe Stanley Levko comes to the region and says, I want to take down the Lake County Sheriff. This is going to be the excellent capstone of my career. But that's not how it works normally. He's being treated differently, Oscar Martinez. He should be offered a plea bargain, and he should be allowed to plea it down and go on with our lives so this freaking circus could come to an end. It's bullshit what's going on in Lake County right now. And we're just standing by like sheep watching a special prosecutor persecute the Lake County Sheriff over a traffic incident. A traffic incident.
Well, I mean, the allegations are that he committed a crime and it's going through the process. It's set for trial. At the end of the day, if Oscar wants a plea, then his lawyer needs to go meet with the prosecutor. And
if John
see if
Vesmar
they can
came to
work-
you, never had a crime before, with the same case, would you be like, John, you're probably going to prison. You're probably going to
I
you're
would
probably
say,
going to
let
have
me-
to plead to a felony.
I'd say let me talk to the prosecutor and see if we can work something out. And I assume that look, the sheriff has a great attorney. I'm never going to second guess Paul Strachey, right? The guy
Agreed.
knows what he's doing. He's been
Agreed.
around a long time. He's seasoned, and I trust that Mr. Strachey is doing everything he can to help Oscar out. So if that means going to talk to Stanley Levko and trying to work out a deal, that's what I'm assuming he's going to do. If it means go to trial, then I'm sure they're going to go to trial. It sounds like in April.
Sounds to me like we're wasting a bunch of time. Sounds to me like we're wasting a bunch of money on one single case when we have 10,000 cases just like this that are being treated 100% differently. Of course, they don't have a special prosecutor that wants to be famous.
Yeah, I don't know if he wants to be famous or not.
I'm telling you, Kevin, I've watched
He's
Bernie
done
Carter.
a lot of cases.
I watched Bernie Carter for 20 years in Lake County, okay? I've never seen Bernie Carter on a case that's pending go on the radio shows and like go on a publicity tour trying to like raise awareness about what's going on. I've never seen it.
Well, I mean, the Times and the Post are doing their own publicity of it as well. I mean, it's a high-profile case.
Of course. It's the Lake County Sheriff is being persecuted. Of course they're going to cover it. So, anyway, Tom Soapbox. Yeah, I'm sorry, Joe.
How do they determine who the special prosecutor is? Is it just like
It's
a
usually
random draw?
named by the county prosecutor. The county prosecutor names a special
They usually have
prosecutor.
relationships.
Gotcha.
You know, like Stanley and Bernie. I think they probably help each other
They've
out.
both been prosecutors a long time. And so they probably have a relationship. And he's been named the special prosecutor in several Lake County cases, so I'm sure there's a history there. I mean,
but like
at the end of the day, the prosecutor, prosecutors have their own kind of, I don't mean this, they have additional ethical rules they have to follow. And, I'm assuming he's following them. If he's not,
the
someone
rules
can report
are,
him.
in my opinion, the rules prosecutor have to follow is what the Lake County voters demanded that prosecutor, Kevin. That's that's where I'm coming from.
I think you have to follow what your rules are.
Let me
and
give
what
you
the
an
law
example of
is.
why you're wrong on this. Okay.
I'm pretty sure what the rules are. But
Okay, I'm pretty sure that they're not required to be followed.
you said I know what the rules are, and they
Listen,
are.
Kevin, I know one rule for the statewide prosecutor is they're supposed to prosecute marijuana cases. Well, Ryan Mears said, screw that. I'm not prosecuting marijuana cases. He's still the Marion County prosecutor.
Yeah, I think what he said was that he has determined that he's not going to make those a priority in his office. So if they
Meaning
come to
we're
him-
not charging any of them.
Sure.
Okay.
But it's a prosecutor's discretion whether to charge.
Because the Marion County voters are his boss, not the Prosecutors Alliance of Indiana or whatever it is.
Well, I think you still have to follow the law, right? I mean, lawyers and
Of
prosecutors
course,
don't
he's
always
following
have
the
to
law.
do...
He's just choosing not to follow that law. Even though the prosecutors, if you look at the Prosecutors Alliance, whatever it's called, it says marijuana is a drug and you will prosecute it. And Ryan Mears said, nope, I'm not going to do that because my bosses are the Marion County voters, just like in Lake County. Bernie's bosses are us. Stanley Levko is a visitor here.
Well, even though we may be the voters, I think any attorney, including Bernie, including Stanley Levko, still have to follow the law. And I think that's what they've been charged to do. And if they don't, then they're in trouble in a different way. And you've seen like the one that comes to mind is the Duke lacrosse scandal, that whole thing. And that prosecutor ended up getting, I think he lost his law license or he got disciplined or something happened. But it's an interesting thing. You brought up some interesting points.
It's sad. It's sad to me. I think my summary is, where's the plea bargain? Because if this was any other case in Lake County, this would be pled out. It wouldn't be on the front page of the paper multiple days. It would result in a plea.
Yeah, and the question is there an offer? Is there an offer out there? That's all stuff that's usually kept pretty tight to the vest.
Well, lucky for me, I know a couple people.
Okay.
I knew we weren't going to get through half of this script today.
Yeah,
There's
it's
just
pretty
way
aggressive.
too much.
Why don't we
it's
bring in the
already
boss?
time to bring in the boss.
Why don't we bring in the boss? We'll do ads. You want to do all the ads at one time, Kevin, and then we'll bring in the
Sure.
boss, and we'll still try to make the best of what we can. Right?
Sure.
Including bringing in Marissa.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't you guys go ahead and bring in Marissa, and then we'll start ads. Hang with us, guys. It's going to be a good show. As you can tell right off the bat, we came out swinging.
Mayor Tom's Soapbox. Season 5 is powered by our premier sponsor, Powering America. With the explosive growth of renewable energy in America today, call Powering America to meet your needs. For renewable energy in your home or office, including electric vehicle chargers and solar-powered solutions, trust the electrical professionals of Powering America. Visit poweringnorthwestindiana.org.
Try Electronics. Try Electronics wants to be your complete communications provider. Try Electronics has been a leader in this industry for more than 55 years. They are dedicated to assisting our clients with their systems integration needs. Try Electronics has the expertise and experience to provide superior results for a wide variety of projects. For more information, call Try Electronics today at 1-800-722-6793.
Byway Brewing is a family-friendly microbrewery with a spacious tap room and outside patio. Brewing equipment offers a unique backdrop for your private event like weddings, reunions, and corporate parties. They're conveniently located just off of 8094 at the Kennedy Avenue South exit. Come on by and enjoy Byway's award-winning beers and unbeatable menu.
Misprint.
Whoa. Whose voice is that?
Misprint specializes in delivering the highest quality signs and printing on time and within budget.
And metal business cards.
Misprint's experience and technology allows them to offer custom, commercial, on-demand printing and sign solutions you can count on. The English major in me is saying you can't end in a preposition. On which you can
this
count.
is going to be an exciting show.
Yeah. Stand by, everybody.
Grammar police.
English 420.
Where did the viewers
And
just
there
go?
went our viewers.
Sign solutions on which you can count.
She's
Rick
like editing.
Baldwin's, yeah, do you have a red pen?
I don't write
Oh,
these.
we know Kevin's got a red pen.
Steve Kellogg. You can go take it out with Steve Kellogg, our business manager.
Rick Baltonsberger and his team have
It's
served
called
Chicagoland
Balzenberger,
and
but who's counting?
it's Baltonsberger.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
Here we go.
And I wasn't going to mention that publicly, but you've been mispronouncing it the whole time, Kevin.
Thank you, Rick.
Rick Baltonsberger.
Can I leave now, Tom? This is going to be a blast.
Yeah.
Welcome to Tom's World.
Kevin, you suck. Tom, you're great.
Rick
She
Baltonsberger.
hasn't
She didn't
said
say
that.
She didn't say
Come on,
that.
last one. Rick Baltonsberger and his team have served Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana for over 30 years. Misprint has 2 convenient locations in Munster and Hammond.
Go ahead.
Executive Suite.
I don't know if I'm ready for this. Executive Suite Squared, commonly known as ES2, is a first-class executive office environment located on 8094 at Kennedy Avenue. ES2 offers flexible membership plans that provide the privacy of dedicated, fully furnished offices with 24/7 secured access, so no matter how big or small your business may be, they can accommodate the way you work. For more information on their basic or private office membership packages or to rent one of their state-of-the-art conference rooms, call them at 219-844-2901 or visit them at executivesuites2.com.
We going all the way through?
Up to you. Sure. Or we can do ads in a little bit. We've got a
Okay.
lot to talk
Hey, babe,
about.
what's up?
Good morning.
Morning,
Hey,
Judge.
How's it going?
How are you?
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Brightening up our studio.
This is her first official visit.
Wow, thank you.
I was,
Kevin.
someone said that the
She
other
came
day.
in during
like,
Christmas. She gave us this.
That was a surprise
that
visit.
was, but I thought you came in on
Mom's
election
on the
day.
Oh,
I thought you were here.
because Patrick was here too.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
I could have. Okay, so
But I wasn't,
you
I
weren't
was
the
just
you weren't the real
the main
main
event.
event.
Yes.
Right. She's the
Headliner.
main event right now. Yeah, I found
Morning.
out last night you were the main event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what's up?
She's
You
got her own.
Is there a problem
peeps.
with that?
No, it's great. I was
She's
super
got her own
happy.
peeps,
Oh.
man. She
I
does
was
her own thing.
crying like I was so happy when I retweeted.
I had my people call your people.
See how
Yeah.
Tom's leaning back? He's like, I'm just gonna keep my.
No, I'm just gonna shut up. Like I can go in the green room. So what's up?
How
How's
are ya?
How's it going?
Very good.
What's
Yeah.
up?
Is this the first time you saw him this morning, or was there a
No.
good morning
No.
as well?
There was a kiss
we
goodbye.
have a pattern.
Oh.
We have a pattern.
Mhm.
Nice.
Then I drove out to the Heights, my
Very
morning drive.
nice.
I wake up at 6 a.m. No alarm.
Read the paper.
I
That's
get
a
up.
true
I wake
story.
everybody up. I wake up. No alarm.
Wait, what do you mean you wake everyone up? You go room to room and wake everyone
Like
up?
with a pot?
Like at 6
bang
a.m.?
with
Yeah.
a pot,
like boot camp.
Yeah.
Feet on the floor.
throwing water on people.
But I wake up with no alarm, and then I usually turn the light on, and Marissa wakes up a little slower than me, and then I turn Pat's light on. He wakes up slower, and then I start making coffee and stuff like that.
And the
But,
day gets going at the McDermott house.
Yeah, yeah.
yep, that's it. So, all right. Thanks for listening, everybody. No.
That's true, because we were in this thread yesterday, and we were like, well, Marissa's a judge. We got to be careful what we talk about. So this is it. This is the show. We're talking about how
Feels
they
like
wake
the
up.
wrong
Talking about
and-
nothing.
and that's it.
Coffee in the morning.
We intentionally didn't bring you in during the Tom Soapbox segment.
Yeah.
But you know what? I was out in the hallway and I could hear it through the door.
Well, I was
Oh,
loud.
wow.
You
I
were
feel-
quite animated.
I am.
Yeah.
I should be on the legal team. I should be on the legal team.
He
Well,
knows.
I have no
Paul
opinion.
Strachey, I'm offering my services.
I don't
I-
hear the phone ringing, but maybe it's going to start soon.
We don't have a phone.
I have no opinion about that case in particular.
I know you
but
don't.
one thing I will say,
Because you can't have an opinion.
no,
'cause you're a
I
judge.
can't, and I don't want to
Right.
have an opinion about it. But one thing I will say, which echoes something that Tom said, is I was also a public defender for many years.
Yeah.
And not one of my cases ended up going to trial.
Yeah,
So
public.
You had a lot of
take that
cases.
for what you will.
You had a lot of cases like that.
I mean,
Most of them, right?
I never counted the cases, but it must have been in the thousands.
Yeah, my driving related offenses, drunk, drugs in the car, driving while suspended, driving without insurance, were 50% of my caseload.
Yeah, I'd be curious on how many PD cases in the not in the county division go to trial. I would say very, 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 very. I mean, few if any.
I remember
If
this
any.
from law school.
One a year.
I
maybe?
remember one of my, I think it was civil procedure, said trial is a failure of the system. Going to trial is a failure of the system, and I believe that. What is it? 97, 98% of all cases are settled before trial, right, Kev?
Wow.
Marissa?
Marissa?
Seriously.
Well, yeah.
All cases filed?
I would
Okay,
say out
but,
of all
you
my
know-
cases I've ever handled, that's probably accurate.
One thing you have to understand, though, is in, let's say, a felony case, there might not be as much incentive to settle, because if you settle, you're looking at, DOC, Department of Corrections time, for example. Whereas in civil court and circuit court, all of our trials are civil.
Right.
The incentive to settle is that you get paid. So
Or
there's much
you
more
you stop the hemorrhaging of lawyer fees.
Yeah, so there's a lot more incentive to settle, and it's so in circuit court, the vast majority of our cases end up settling, even right up to trial. We'll have the trial set.
During trial, I've settled a
During
case when the
trial.
jury's out.
Yeah.
And that's
Sure.
not to say we don't
Wow.
try cases, because sometimes the offer is just not enough for that plaintiff to, the plaintiff, and Kevin can certainly speak to this, but, plaintiffs put a certain amount of time and money into a case, their attorneys do, and at some point, if they're not going to recoup what they believe is a fair value for that, then they figure, well, we'll just roll the dice and see if the jury sees it the way we see it, because at that point, you've already put so much into it, why not? But most of the cases do.
And
settle.
criminal cases are, like Marissa brought up, I think criminal cases probably go to trial more, just because there are certain elements of criminal law that you have to take into account if you're a defendant. Like, you may be looking at being a third-time felon. You may
Right.
be looking at a
Right.
habitual
You have no
offender.
choice but to fight.
And so you have to, because if you plead guilty to anything, you're going away for a
Okay,
long
so what do you
time.
think percentage-wise? What do you think of all the criminal cases filed in Indiana? What percent go to trial?
Under 5%.
Okay, I agree with
I
you.
would think.
I think it's probably closer to 4 or 3 personally, but whatever.
Yeah,
We're in the
under
same
5%,
ballpark.
sure.
96%, 96% of all cases settle before trial.
Which is good, because that means it's a plea agreement, it's an it's a resolution, and it keeps the system moving. If the system had to try every case,
If we tried
Could you
every
imagine?
if we tried every traffic offense like we're
Sure.
trying the sheriff's traffic offense right now, Lake County courts would be completely clogged.
or you'd need 80 judges. I mean,
You would never be able to get a case through this system. If we treated every defendant like we're treating Oscar Martinez, Lake County Sheriff right now, our system would grind to a halt. There I go again. My bad.
Anyway.
the soapbox came back out.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing so I've been circuit judge now for 5 years. I think people are sometimes surprised by that, because the time went by so quickly, and it feels
did.
like that for me too. But I was elected in November of 2016, and then was sworn in January of 2017. So, it's been 5 years now that I've been on the bench. And, one of the things that really surprised me was how much of what a judge does is not on the bench. It's not what you see in TV and movies. I would say about 25% of what a judge does is actually sitting on the bench, in open court. And then the other 75% is all, just dealing with everything that's filed, doing research and writing and administrative things. Because we're talking about jury trials, and that's like, I use the word sexy, and this is what they write, books and make movies about. But most cases don't go to trial, right? You don't write a book or a movie about all that other stuff.
But they're still important to the litigants. I mean, a lot of these things,
yeah.
right? That's the thing I think people don't realize, is that even though you get you're getting resolution, these are things that are very, very important to those that are involved.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I see Marissa, like a lot of the work that she does is after hours on the couch with the laptop in her lap, 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night, in our bed, like sitting there with like the Olympics on in the background, her laptop in her lap, working on her queue.
Well, I think that's, and I think that's Marissa's reputation. I mean, it really is. Since she's been elected, I can tell you just from my conversations with attorneys, is that what people want out of judges is obviously to be fair and to understand the law and to be diligent and move cases along. Because the worst thing that you can have from a attorney's perspective is to have a client saying, "Why isn't my case moving?" or "What's happening?" And you don't want to say like, "Oh, the judge isn't doing their job," or "The judge isn't being diligent." But sometimes that's the case. And so I think Marissa's reputation is one that she moves the cases along, and she's smart, obviously, and gets the job done.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I think it helps that I practiced law for so long.
For sure.
And so I have that experience as an attorney, knowing what an attorney wants, I think. And what attorneys want is they want their orders. They want the answer. And sometimes, they might not be happy with the answer, but they'd rather have that answer and hopefully, a logical explanation for that answer. And they'd rather have that now than having to wait a long time and having things in flux for a long time.
Judge Marissa.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't call her that
official.
very often. Yeah.
Mayor Tom.
Your Honor.
Yeah, right?
Your
She never
Honor.
called me
Your
that.
Honor.
6 years ago when you were running for circuit court judge,
Yep.
one of the biggest issues at the time was a humongous backlog in the Lake County Circuit Court. Are we going to be talking about backlogs when you're running this time? Because it was literally, I want to say like 60,000 cases or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, that was something that, first of all, I was surprised to learn about when I was running. That was an issue that came to my attention. That wasn't the impetus for me running, but once I started running and started actually digging into the numbers, I was just kind of aghast at how much of a backlog there was. And that was something that I have really, really dedicated my administration to chipping away at, and we have successfully done it over the years.
How does that happen?
Well,
I know how it happens.
The thing you have to realize with courts is, I liken becoming a judge to jumping on a running treadmill, because that's what it is. There is just a constant flow of things. There's things that are constantly being filed. You're constantly having, deadlines that you have to meet to get things out. And so it's not like you can come become a judge and then all you're focusing on is what the past. You're also dealing with the 6,000 new cases that are being filed in the court every year. So you're dealing with all the stuff that's coming into the court, but you're also trying to push out everything that you can and try to chip away at if there is a backlog, which there was when I took over.
I'm sorry.
No, but one of the things that we were able to do during my administration, and of course with the help of the state, was we have totally transitioned from paper to digital. And you're talking about me sitting on the laptop, watching, quote unquote, watching the Olympics. That is all new. That's something that we just ushered in 2018. So we totally transitioned from literally my first day I walked in and there were just stacks of blue files everywhere, and I would have to go through with a pen, and I'd have to sign or make, write orders, and that's history now. But that's history because we did transition from 100% paper now to 100% digital. And the nice thing about
that... So you can't even file like a paper motion anymore? Very
limited opportunity to do that. Attorneys must file electronically. Most people must file electronically. If you have some sort of disability that prevents you from doing that, or let's say you file a pauper for pauper status and you don't have a computer or whatever it is, there's always exceptions. They still accept over the counter filings. Of course, protection orders, which we get almost on a daily basis, those are usually petitioners coming in person seeking relief immediately, and they're not filing electronically. They're coming in and filing their, they want protection right now from an abusive person. But most of the stuff is it's electronic, and the nice thing about that is that as a judge, you now have an eagle's eye view of everything. Everything that's filed in the court, you can see the numbers, and you can constantly track where cases are coming in, where cases are going out, and keep track of all that. So that's made all the courts, but certainly circuit court, a lot more efficient.
I was going for
I work really hard. Done.
Yeah, I work really hard on my laptop, and I chipped away at the backlog, and it's gone. But that was a great explanation.
Chat is great today, by the way.
Okay, what do we got?
Hey,
they're saying that Mayor really married up.
We all know that.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Chad. Appreciate you all. Love you. I usually get love from chat, not today.
They're asking if you call Marissa judge at home.
No, like honestly, I always make a joke that I'm the Mayor of Hammond, then I get home and she's the boss of the house. That's pretty true. But no, we don't call each other Mayor or Judge.
One thing I'll tell Chad is,
oh no,
I
didn't bring you up
as well.
I didn't grow up in Indiana, and when I came out here for law school, came to Notre Dame, I literally came to Indiana and I married the first man that I met.
Wow.
And that was Tom McDermott. So he was...
Indiana put a good man forward.
The first guy that I met, we got married in the Basilica.
You want to hear a funny story about Marissa?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so I meet this chick from New York, right? And she's like badass chick from New York, right? Meaning like she's got these like, I called them the Terminator glasses. She had like a leather jacket on, walked around like 110 pound
What
badass.
year we have? This is like 97.
97,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then like, so we were like hanging, we weren't dating. We were just like friends, right?
Hanging.
We were hanging. No, we were literally friends. We played racquetball and stuff. We were friends for 6 months before we even dated, right? That's why you're nodding. This is a podcast.
You have to speak.
You speak verbally. You're on the record, Marissa.
I concur.
Thank you. I remember we were going through a Wendy's, and we were pulling through, and Marissa was driving, and the lady at the drive-thru was like, "How you doing, ma'am?" "Okay, ma'am. Have a nice day, ma'am." And Marissa pulls away, and she's pissed off. And I'm like, "What's your problem?" And she's like, "That lady was being like sarcastic with me. She was being like, I'm like, no, she was being nice to you, actually, because Marissa's so used to in New York where if people are acting like that, she thinks they're just being like.
Yeah, it was a culture shock. I mean, I have to say, coming from New York to Indiana was a culture shock, but really in a good way. I have embraced, who I am now, which is a Hoosier.
Yeah.
And I love the Midwest. I think it's really no better place to raise a family.
Agreed.
I love how there's all this faith-based community and everybody knows each other, and you have the fish fries and you have the steak fries and pretty much anything you can fry. They have all a smelt fry.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different place. And I think it's a great place to raise a family, and we've raised our family here, and I love it here.
Sometimes she's so soft now. I'm like, what happened to that girl from New York? Like, you're such a softie. Marissa's she loves the Midwest though. But hey, I was wondering, Marissa, would you mind if we cover Al Gore as a hero while you're in the studio? It's about January 6th. I don't know if you're comfortable.
Joe Rogan.
I don't know. Oh. Maybe Joe Rogan's a little too rough with the judge in here.
Okay, we previewed it, but we'll talk about Al Gore as a hero.
We could bounce it. Al Gore as a hero is definitely better. Are you comfortable with that, Marissa?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
It's about.
Don't be comfortable.
It's a good segment. It's a good segment. It's clips I've never seen of January 6th before.
Oh yeah.
And the election results.
And I mean, my conclusion is Al Gore is a hero, which is where we're going. I don't know if you are comfortable in staying with us. We could continue to talk about other stuff.
Here we go.
She's not sure until we get into it.
Okay, let's go.
Because I don't know what you're talking about.
Why don't you go ahead and start, Kevin? Lead into the segment if you don't mind. And
I thought it was interesting, right? We all know what happened in the 2020 election. I mean, you'd have I don't know where you'd have to be to not know what happened. But it was interesting, I thought, over the weekend where Mike Pence at the Federalist Society, which is a conservative, a lot of like thoughtful conservative people, lawyers and stuff, or members, he spoke in front of the Federalist Society. This isn't like your audience of the masses, for sure.
It's a Republican,
conservative organization that they talk, the Constitution, things like that, and it's conservative. But he spoke to them, and I thought it was interesting because he broke with the president, former President Trump, when Trump had said earlier in the week, Mike Pence could have overturned the election. And I thought and I'm no Mike Pence fan, but I thought this was a very interesting clip that John's about to play.
Before John plays, I agree with Kevin. I find it weird when I'm feeling sorry for Mike Pence.
I find it interesting when I'm feeling like Mike Pence is a true American, and in a way, in my mind, he stood up for what he should stand up for.
We never did our ads.
All right, we'll get to him.
Okay, yeah.
And what are we going to do? Stop and do it right now?
So why don't we go ahead and play former Vice President Pence's comments, and then we'll get into where we're going with this.
Yes.
And I heard this week that President Trump said I had the right to overturn the election. But President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election. The presidency belongs to the American people and the American people alone. And frankly, there is no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could choose the American president.
There you have it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's right. And although Trump believes he's wrong, and I thought Trump's response was pretty funny.
So basically what they're saying is, the country votes, all the states we know on election night, usually where each state is, and then the electors of that state assemble a couple weeks later in the Electoral College, right, in Washington, D.C.
No, I think they send them in.
But election day was early November.
Sure.
And January 6th is when they get sent to. So there's a period of 2 months, basically, right, where we know who won the presidency, right?
Well, the secretaries of state of each state certify the election, and I think the electors then.
But how often have you ever seen a state change after election day? Unless it's like super close.
There'd have to be a recount.
Right. So what I'm saying is we knew in early November who won the presidency of the United States for the most part. I know there was a few states in dispute. And then 2 months later, these votes get sent to Washington, D.C. for a ceremonial approval, basically, by Congress. That these are the votes sent to us by the secretaries of state. They represent actual electors. In this case, Donald Trump lost, and the new president of the United States is Joe Biden. And what they're saying is, 2 months later, after 2 months of assuming we know who the president is, the vice president has the right to reject all of those electors and say, no, actually, my other guy won.
I mean, that I think is what they're trying to say. And they're also trying to say, like, well, you could have delayed it, or you could have. And I thought one of the responses that I heard, I think it might have been Mark Scott, the former chief of staff, or somebody else on the Republican side said, yeah, we agree. The vice president doesn't have the right to change the election results. Just like we don't want Kamala Harris in 2 years, when we kick all your Democrats' asses, according to them, that she could overturn it. And I think that's a good way to put it. You don't want, the vice president has a ceremonial role on that day. And that's what Mike Pence did. He did what he was supposed to do.
Donald Trump wanted Mike Pence to cause chaos.
Yeah, and he said, and he responded. He said, I just saw Mike Pence's statement on the fact that he had no right to do anything with respect to the electoral vote count other than being an automatic conveyor belt for the old crow Mitch McConnell to get Biden elected president as quickly as possible.
I miss Trump, man.
Well,
come on, tell me you don't miss a president saying stuff like that.
I do miss it.
Crow.
I don't miss it. I'll tell you why. Because the president shouldn't be so unable to understand the Constitution that he says stuff like that can rile people up.
He knows,
to think that that's the president speaking, that's the ex-president speaking. He has to know what's right. He knows the inside information, and then you end up having things like this happening that we're gonna show, which is craziness.
Okay, so before we get to that, the RNC declares, while censoring Congresswoman Cheney and Congressman Kinzinger, that January 6th was legitimate political discourse. Just another day at the Capitol, okay? And we have a couple videos we want to show you about this January 6th and legitimate political discourse.
I'm telling you what, I'm hearing that Pence just caved.
No.
Is that true?
I didn't
I'm hearing reports that Pence caved. No I'm telling you, if Pence caved, we're going to drag motherfuckers through the streets. You fucking politicians are going to get fucking drugged through the streets. Yeah. Because we're not going to have our fucking shit stolen. We're not going to have our election, our country stolen. If we find out you politicians voted for it, we're going to drag your fucking ass through the street. Because this is the second fucking revolution. And we're fucking done. I'm telling you right now, Ryan Nichols said it. If you voted for fucking treason, we're going to drag your fucking ass through the
Whoa.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on. Ryan Nichols is now in federal custody.
That's that guy?
Trial.
That's that guy?
Yeah.
I love that he provided his own evidence to take him down.
No, you know what's crazy is this guy, you could see him during the January 6th scuffle. You could see him spraying stuff all over.
Yeah, politicians would have that. But the thing is that I think it's interesting, right? I mean, that his interpretation is it's American and patriotic to undermine the rule of law and to say, if you voted for this, we're going to drag you through the streets.
We're basically, we're the ones that are supposed to win, according to this gentleman.
And we'll take it by violent means.
Right. And you're not going to take it from us because we're veterans.
That's about the most un-American thing I can think of if you're a defender of democracy and the Constitution.
Right.
So
I know
we don't like the ending, but we're going to make it our ending.
But I know we don't want to go too deep into this because we have the judge in here, and I know she can't talk about this, okay? And I apologize because once we realized we were walking down this path, I realized that Judge couldn't talk a lot, and she's sort of sitting back right now. So I want to just cover...
one thing I will say, and this is not a comment on the video that was just shown, but one thing I will say is that we still have a very strong respect for law in this country. I see it every day. People come to court, and they are respectful. They follow orders, and there is still a very strong rule of law in this country. If we were to ever lose that, then I'm not sure what you have left, because as a judge, I don't have an army. I issue an order and I hope that someone follows it. And we have a system now where, as Americans, we respect law, and I hope that we never lose that.
I agree with you. And the thing where I was going with Al Gore as a hero, as everybody remembers, the election of 2000 came down to Florida and a few hundred votes.
537 votes out of 6 million.
Right. And Al Gore, we all know, out of 6 million, we know that Al Gore lost, the Democrat in the race. He was the vice president at the time also. Mm-hmm. And he was running for election at that time against George W. Bush, who ended up becoming the president.
Won the popular vote.
And Al Gore lost by 537 votes. It was Supreme Court was heavily involved at the time. And at the time, I guarantee you Al Gore was devastated. I'll guarantee you he was bitter. I guarantee you he had the same kinds of thoughts that Donald Trump had, right? He went, and by the way, Donald Trump lost by a lot bigger margin than Al Gore did, okay? And did Al Gore try to cause a civil war? No. Did Al Gore try to undermine democracy? No. Did Al Gore have his followers attack the Capitol? No. it's just I hear a lot of people that like to bang on Al Gore, and I hear a lot of people that don't like Al Gore. But I'm telling you, I think history has proven that Al Gore is a bigger gentleman than we ever thought he was, because he could have taken the same route taken by 45, and he decided to be a true American, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you remember, so like what it ended up being in front of the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court had to make a decision, and it ended up being 5-4
right,
along what you could consider partisan lines, and they said that there was no reasonable way to do a recount in the amount of time needed before the Electoral College voted, right? And so that was it. And I thought, I mean, I found one quote from Al Gore's concession speech that I thought was really important, or two. He said, almost a century and a half ago, Senator Stephen Douglas told Abraham Lincoln, who had just defeated him for the presidency, partisan feeling must yield to patriotism. I'm with you, Mr. President. God bless you. They hated each other, Douglas and Lincoln. Hated each other, right? He also said, well, in that same spirit, I say to President-elect Bush that what remains of partisan rancor must now be set aside, and may God bless his stewardship of this country. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just, you fast forward 20 years.
Can you imagine?
Trump would have never done it. 537 votes in one state?
Right.
It would have never, I mean, it would have been a bloodbath.
No, it would have been a bloodbath.
And it would have, and it's all caused by the rancor by one person.
Right.
And I think what Pence did this week is important, because I think it shows people that the Republican Party is not just 100% Donald Trump, that there are divides in it, and there are people within the Republican Party that want to say the rule of law is important, and we need to get back to what's...
Which side are you on? Are you on the side of democracy or on the side of Trump?
Right.
It's really like in the Republican Party, are you on Pence's side in the rule of law and the peaceful transfer of power? Or are you on Trump's side, insisting that the election was stolen and insisting that January 6th was just another day in the Capitol? Which side are you on? Todd Young, Senator Todd, which side are you on? I know which side I'm on. I'm on the American side. I'm on the peaceful transfer of power side. So anyway, I think we're being rude to our guest because she can't really talk about this.
Sorry, Judge.
Yeah, so why don't we hit our ads, and then we have I just want to finish up by interviewing the judge about a couple more things.
Absolutely.
Sure, let's go ahead and start. Challenger Learning Center. This Valentine's Day, embark on a date like no other to create a love connection for a lonely Mars rover. Join Challenger Learning Center on Friday, February 12th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
With your wife next
It's sold
door.
out.
Sold out.
We still have to do the ad. Thank you.
Challenger
It's
Learning
sold
Center
out.
is great.
Sorry, Jill.
Check them out.
Sold out.
That's the ad.
I got
That
no
was
one.
Jill's
It's fine.
plan.
Saturday, January 12th from 5 to 8 p.m. for a brand new Red Planet Romance event with dinner and drinks presented by Byway Brewery. Register today at clcnwi.com. Ask if anybody's canceled.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Thank
There
you.
could
All
be
right.
some cancellations.
Right.
Let's get the new year started with the Michelob Ultra. Ultra has only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories, so it's sure to keep your resolutions, thank you, John, in check, while continuing to be one of the fastest growing brands nationally and in the region. Take your resolutions to the next level and try an organic light lager with only 2.5 carbs and 85 calories. Ultra Pure Gold is brewed for your healthy lifestyle. Check out calbrew.com or Cal Brew's Facebook page for brand info and giveaways. Cheers with beers.
Grisolia's Concrete. Grisolia's Concrete was voted #1 in the Times Best of the Region 2020 and 2021, and feeling pretty damn confident about 2022. Grisolia's Concrete specializes in all of your concrete projects, and they have been using the original cement finish in the California style.
See what
Marissa, can you
see
get
what you
into
miss
it?
live every
Are you
Tuesday
allowed
and
to get into
Friday.
it?
Tom asked me to read that ad, and I said no.
was
This
gonna do-
belongs to you.
Agreed. I think he's owned that for
Since
5 seasons.
1972, and also offers stamped and colored concrete. Call now, 219-659-4127 to get your project lined up for the spring.
Tortillas Nuevo Leon.
Oh, wow.
Tortillas Nuevo Leon is the gold standard of Mexican cuisine throughout the Midwest.
Oro Standardo.
Look for Tortillas Nuevo Leon's popular red and white label at your local grocery store and enjoy quality Mexican products made with local expertise.
Tortillas Nuevo León, hechas con amor, para ti y tu familia de todo corazón. Tortillas Nuevo León, hechas con amor, para ti y tu familia de todo corazón.
For programming note, we're taking the section of today's pod and moving it to Friday. It's titled "Joe Rogan is a POS racist." So we're going to take that one and move it to Friday. And for the
Whoa.
courtesy of our guest.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Marissa,
Yeah.
you know, interesting, because she reminded me when she was reading off the Tortillas Nuevo Leon. She is amazing about languages.
I do love language.
It's crazy. We went to Mexico, and I know Marissa could, she could fumble around with language pretty well and get it. In Mexico, we were there for 6 days? Mm-hmm. She,
Got it.
dude,
All over your
I'm
Spanish,
like,
huh?
what the hell? I took 4 years of Spanish 1, damn it.
Plus
I
a
should
tutor.
be doing better
Plus a
than her.
Spanish tutor
Plus
in
a
City
Spanish
Hall.
tutor, and she's kicking my
Well,
butt.
I'm certainly not fluent, but I'll tell you, I'll say this: when you go to Mexican people are just wonderful. They're so warm, they're so welcoming, and they appreciate if you try.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're not fluent, if you can say a few phrases, if you can say thank you, please, you're welcome in Spanish, they really appreciate it. And it's a fun language to speak to.
I can fumble around with it pretty well.
Yeah.
Like, I can understand it when people are talking to me. If you said something to me, I'd be like, okay, I think this is where you were going.
Did you just call me
Where
Yeah,
is the
right,
library?
yeah.
I know where you're.
Donde está es el biblico, right?
Donde está la biblioteca?
La biblioteca. See? They would have got where I was going. They would have been like, sounds dumb.
It's over there.
He's got like
You
a
don't-
second grade education, but nonetheless, the library's over there, right?
I guess if you want to go to the library in
Right.
Cancun, it's
Yeah, right.
down the
block. You idiot. So,
Yeah.
by the way, the other day we had our show in here, and I was going to have Marissa come on last week,
Oh,
right? And then we were like, because it was the last day
I thought
of
you were
filing.
surprised
I
that
was.
she
I
was
was
that she was
surprised.
coming on today.
I was surprised, but I wanted her to come in last week. Being honest with you, on the last day of filing, her and I were going to high five and be like, "Congrats, honey," And instead, on that last day, she got a stupid challenge on somebody running against her.
Well,
We're not saying that she's stupid.
I'm not.
Okay,
That's-
just clarifying.
No, I didn't
So
say
many
it.
attorneys
I
in
just
this room.
stupid. I was like, no, we're just saying that everyone has a right to run.
Notwithstanding.
no,
Absolutely,
meaning she filed on the last day.
Well, what's interesting is that the media didn't pick up on it, and so there's a lot of people that still think that I'm unopposed in the primary, but that's because to file for a judge, you actually have to drive to Indianapolis and you have to file your paperwork there. So that board here in Lake County that Michelle Feynman kept adding to and scratching off the whole day, that didn't include the circuit judge spot. So everyone's congratulating me the last few days. Hey, congratulations on being unopposed, and then I have to sort of awkwardly remind them, well, no, actually, I'm not unopposed. But
Yeah.
God
It's
bless
important that they
democracy.
know. That
It
they,
is.
it's
No, it
important
is.
they know you have a race.
It's
Well,
important.
the
they
local
know.
media didn't even pick up on it.
That's what I
Marissa.
mean. Even the local media, even though they could
Right.
have gone on the Secretary of State website.
Whatever, we're not
Yeah.
upset. It's just it's to this day though. I haven't seen anything indicating
Yeah.
that.
well, why give the
To
opponent
this
free
day.
press?
That's where, by the way, that's where I'm coming from. Marissa and I've had this conversation, and I'm like, you don't need the.
Do you want an
publicity.
article saying that?
Right. You want your opponent to be publicized because that's what we're saying is like, hey, I'm opposed by this person, the same person that ran.
You've already
against-
beat her once.
She did run before, yeah. But, I do want people to know that there is a race. I do want people to hear, what we've accomplished in the last 5 years. And it's a lot. I'm really proud of it. In fact, we brought circuit court to home the other day, remember?
Yeah,
So, everybody
remember.
Probably remembers we had a snowstorm last week. And one of the things that the circuit judge is required to do under the statute is to decide whether the court buildings are open or closed. So every time there's going to be bad weather, the county commissioner president, which in this case is Mike Repay, and myself have a discussion about, are we going to close the buildings? And he and I are pretty much on the same wavelength about, we're not just going to close the buildings. It's a big decision to decide whether to close the buildings or not. So he and I were talking Tuesday, and we were both watching these models that were saying, at least 8 inches, and it could be up to like 23 inches, I think they were saying. And, the thing to remember is that county building, it's not only the courts, it's also a lot of other offices. So you might have people that are just going to pop in because they want to file their homestead exemption, or they're popping in because they want to file their paperwork to run for office. They're just coming in voluntarily. But if they're coming in for court, a lot of people they have an order that says if you don't come to court, and a warrant could be put out for your arrest. If you don't come to court, a warrant could be put
And on
out.
a
Now,
day like
those people are going to risk life and limb to get to court, whether there's a snowstorm or not. So having those court buildings in the same, in all in one building, you have to keep that in mind. So the commissioner and I decided we're going to have to do this. We're going to put the notice out. We're closing the building, and we put the notice out. And then that night, I don't know if you remember, but Tuesday night it was raining, and I went to bed Tuesday night. And I saw that it was raining, and I thought, oh, man,
That's going to turn to ice at some
I
point.
really hope that we didn't make the wrong decision. And I was probably one of the few people that was happy Wednesday morning when I woke up and there was 8 inches of fresh snow on the ground. I was like, thank God, because if you close the building and you didn't need to, that's a real
But you take the aggressive approach, you and Commissioner Ripe, the commissioner president, take an aggressive approach about leaving the building open. That's how I feel about being mayor too.
And I'm happy about that.
And
I'm
I don't know
glad
if
you
it's
do.
I don't know if it's our like I don't remember schools closing because it was cold. I don't remember schools closing because there was a small amount of snow. And
we're raising a bunch of wimps.
Well,
no doubt about it. Like, oh my God, it's supposed to snow tomorrow. It hasn't snowed an inch. Oh, we got to cancel school. It's like,
I think it was the right decision though on Wednesday.
But
and I'm always the same way. I hate it when things are closed.
But what was cool? So this happens probably once a year, maybe once every other year, that we have to close the building because of weather. And in the past, when you close, you're really closed, and you have to reset all your court dates, and people are missing, things that they wanted to actually accomplish that day. Well, now, because of COVID, all the courts have learned how to do things remotely by Zoom. So we didn't cancel any of our hearings. I set up shop in our library, had a light and my laptop and my robe, and I sat there at home and I conducted all of our court hearings from home that day, and it was pretty cool. That's the kind of thing.
She's very locked in.
That's good.
Well, you have to take it seriously.
No, of course. You do
I would think so, because you've got people that are watching. I mean, you may be at home, but you've got litigants.
Sure.
And probably even some pro se folks that are on Zoom with you. So it's not like you can be hey, let me go get a cup of coffee or let me go get a sandwich.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's already enough of a feeling like this isn't real court. You really have to be very serious about what you're doing. You have to treat it like real court, because otherwise you get people, and we've even had this, where people are bringing their phone into the bathroom with them, or they're driving when they're in a hearing, or they're not adequately dressed, laying in bed. So it's already enough of an uphill battle to tell people like, yes, this is really court, and we're really on the record, and we're actually conducting business here. So you do want to have a very serious approach to it. And really, to a lot of people, this is a very serious thing for them. For them, this is maybe the most important thing that's going to happen that day. So you want to treat it like that, even if someone might be in the background trying to make you laugh. Somebody.
I don't know what the hell she's talking about.
Must be talking about Patrick.
I wasn't going to go there. But I was tempting her. I wanted to see how locked in she was.
I'll say one of the.
It's like holding out a luscious piece of cake.
Wow.
And it didn't work.
I'm not going to take the bait on that.
She's locked in. She was locked in.
But one of the silver linings to COVID, if we can call it that, is that as courts, we have a whole nother, we have all these new tools in our toolbox where we can still conduct things no matter what, no matter where we are. We can still keep things moving forward. And I got to see that last week with the snowstorm, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And I mean, would you say most attorneys and even litigants understand how to use Zoom and use it effectively? I mean, I'm sure you have some.
And there's been some talk about all the courts should be on one system, and maybe it should be a different kind of
application. Or
a different program. But the thing is, Zoom is what everybody knows. And when you're dealing with a lot of self-represented litigants, you can say Zoom, and they've probably talked to their grandkids or mother or whatever on Zoom, so they're familiar with it. There are some other applications that I don't think people are as familiar with. So you have to do it's easy.
No.
Microsoft Teams I used once. I never want to use it again.
I hate
John,
it.
Right?
So bad.
I hate
Microsoft
Teams.
It's the worst.
Aaron uses it all the time. I'm
what
like,
a
why do you
joke.
use this? Everybody in America uses Zoom, and it's like, no, Microsoft Teams.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hate Microsoft Teams.
It's so bad.
I don't understand how to use it. It's so ridiculous.
The other ones I've used, I think, efficiently are Google Meet is good, and also WebEx. I know the county uses WebEx a lot, and that seems
for their
to work
criminal,
well.
the criminal cases. Yep.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this, Marissa or Judge. What, as far as because as an attorney, I'm used to going into a case. There's other attorneys on the case, but I think a lot of what you do, and maybe people don't understand or realize, is that you deal with a lot of folks that are self-represented.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, what would you say percentage of your cases are self-represented?
So I said one of the things that surprised me was how much a judge does off the bench. The other thing that surprises me is how many cases have no attorneys on either side. It's 60% of civil cases.
No kidding.
60%. 60% of civil cases. And you would say, well, how could that be? Because you see all these billboards on 8094, like for attorneys that will represent you, no fee, free, blah, blah, blah. Well, personal injury cases are actually a very small percent of civil cases. When you're talking about landlord-tenant issues, you're talking about divorce issues, you're talking about collections. Civil collections is probably number one as far as unrepresented people. Those people don't have attorneys. They either can't afford to have an attorney or they think, well, I have Google. So I'll just Google what I need to.
Google law.
You know, and it's hard for judges because one of the things we talk a lot when we go to these conferences is, you know, where's the line between, you know, you're the judge and you can't give anybody kind of legal advice or help them through the process. But on the other hand, the stuff that's happening and the stuff that's filing is so hard to manage because the self-represented people don't know what they're doing. So it's kind of a balancing act to say, you know, I'm not allowed to help you and give you legal advice, but on the other hand, I can't get bogged down in you know, trying to muddle through all this stuff, and it's tough. And that's another thing that the attorneys don't recognize because they're in cases with other attorneys,
Yep.
so they don't really see that part of it.
So as we look forward, I mean, I know we're getting late, and I know we want to wrap up. Election day is
May 3rd. Which
You're
is
on the
also
ballot?
Polish Constitution Day.
Whoa.
Nice.
And Tommy McDermott's birthday.
Yeah.
Oh,
good
wow.
day. That's a good
This
day.
is
So-
a big day in the McDermott
Big
household.
day, May 3rd. And what's funny is if you go back 6 years to my last election, it was also on May 3rd.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
So-
It's a lucky day.
Yeah, so we have a few like things that say May 3rd on them. We don't have to get them reprinted.
One of the things I
That's
remember.
great news for the campaign.
Yeah, save a few bucks.
There's the Polish girl.
Listen, I don't mind saving a few bucks.
I get it.
Yep.
So, hey, babe, we're gonna. Excuse me, Judge. We're gonna keep you. In our minds, and we're gonna bring you back through as your
Oh,
campaign
thank you.
progresses.
Yeah.
I want to monitor your
I'm
race.
a big fan of the show. I
Thank
really
you.
am.
And
I
thank you
think-
for this wonderful.
But I
really-
think we need to hear more from Jill.
All right.
I'm just putting that out there,
I agree.
Jill.
I agree with you.
I mean,
But,
when you do talk, it's hilarious, but I feel like it's
She's got her nuggets. She busts in with
she, she keeps them.
And John does have the voice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Sorry.
Though. That's a
Wow.
So far, there's been, and I've not noticed one compliment over this way yet. This show
Well,
by Marissa.
Nor
So
towards
thank-
I just have to work on the grammar issues, but
Oh,
yeah. That's not us. That's
I
Steve.
didn't
That's
write
like a
these.
dagger
What is that?
Kellogg.
That's
Hard.
insulting.
It's
I mean,
Steve
it is.
Kellogg.
He looks
like,
insulted.
I'm pissed
right?
about that because
It's all
it's
right.
like I
I
didn't
just
write
know how
these
to
things.
push.
There's
I
no
just
way.
know how to push Kevin's buttons.
Yeah,
I have
there's
to
no-
watch. I have to watch
He's
my
like,
grammar.
what? I got an A in English 420.
Look
Like,
at his face, just
I
red.
know.
Just you are so pissed right
It's
now.
all right.
You're
Yeah.
rubbing your
Yeah.
Good.
chin.
Wrap it up, Tom.
He wasn't.
That's the-
He
he's
wasn't
got the-
this stressed about
we
my
got his
signatures.
We got
No.
we got his Croatian blood rising
Yeah,
there.
my grammar's bad.
Thanks. So we are moving the Joe Rogan segment. I apologize to our audience that we couldn't cover everything. I knew we were being pretty aggressive, and Judge Marissa, we wanted to get her in the studio. So
It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
yeah, thanks for coming by. It's great to see you.
Sorry I
hon.
didn't bring donuts next time.
Yeah,
don't
work
need
on
those.
that. Yeah, Munster Donuts, by the way. So
Jill cooks for us,
yeah.
bakes for us.
So anyway, we're going to move the Joe Rogan segment to Friday. It's a good segment, by the way. It's pretty brutal also, but it's a good segment that needs to be covered because I don't see how Joe Rogan recovers from the scandal he's going through right now. So if he's off the air by Friday, I told you on Tuesday, but we're going to cover that on Friday. And I want to thank Judge Marissa McDermott for being our guest. It's great to see you. I will probably see you in a few hours when, well, you're going to work and I'm going
Yep,
to work.
going to work.
Anyway, but thanks for being a great audience. We had a really great show today. We had a big live audience. I want to,
Bring them out.
I
Thank
Judge.
you,
think people were
Marissa.
hoping I would spill the beans on Tom or something.
no, we got more beans in the jars.
Any more beans?
More luscious cake.
Yeah, right. By the way, she
Yeah,
was
that's the name of the episode. For
luscious
sure.
cake. I held a luscious piece of cake in front of her, and she didn't even blink. So, anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you back on Friday, and talk to you later. Lockpod out.